Most people think Allah is delaying their marriage because the right person has not appeared yet. But what if the real reason is far more painful than that? What if the person blocking your marriage is actually the version of you that still exists inside your heart? The version that still depends too much on people. The version that still confuses attachment with love. The version that still carries old wounds, hidden fears, emotional desperation, and silent loneliness. Because sometimes Allah does not delay marriage to punish you. He delays it to protect you from entering love with a heart that is still emotionally bleeding. And that is the part nobody talks about. Some people are asking Allah for a peaceful marriage while still carrying the habits that destroy peace. Some are praying for loyalty while their heart still seeks validation from everyone. Some are begging Allah for the one, while secretly expecting another human being to heal what only Allah can heal. But Allah sees deeper than appearances. He sees the conversations you replay at night, the attachment you cannot let go of, the fear hidden behind your smile, the loneliness nobody knows you carry. And maybe before Allah brings your spouse into your life, He is trying to save your future marriage from the broken version of you that still needs healing first. Tonight, you may finally understand why Allah hides certain love stories until the heart is truly ready to carry them. Allah may be hiding your spouse until your heart stops begging people for what only He can give. Some people think they are searching for love, but deep inside, they are searching for emotional rescue. And there is a very big difference between the two. Real love is peaceful. It brings stability, comfort, mercy, sakinah. But emotional dependency feels heavy. It makes your heart constantly hungry for attention, hungry for reassurance, hungry for validation from people. You start depending on messages to feel calm. You wait for replies to feel important. You need constant attention to feel secure. And when someone becomes distant, your entire mood changes. You overthink small things. You replay conversations. You panic over silence. You begin feeling unwanted very quickly, slowly, without realizing it. Your emotional peace becomes controlled by human beings. And this is one of the most dangerous attachments a heart can carry, because humans were never created to carry the weight of your soul. Only Allah can do that. No person, no relationship, no spouse can permanently fill a heart that is spiritually empty. This is why some people enter relationships hoping to feel complete, but still feel lonely inside, because marriage was never meant to replace your connection with Allah. A spouse can love you deeply, support you, comfort you during difficult moments, but they cannot become your source of emotional survival. That place belongs to Allah alone. And sometimes, Allah delays marriage because He knows your heart is becoming too emotionally dependent on people. You think you are asking Him for companionship, but in reality, your heart is asking for someone to remove an emptiness that only closeness to Allah can heal. And if Allah gives a person marriage while their heart is emotionally starving, they may unknowingly destroy the relationship with desperation. They become too attached too quickly, too afraid of losing the person, too emotionally affected by every small change. One delayed reply ruins their peace. One misunderstanding feels like rejection. One moment of distance creates panic inside the heart. Because emotionally dependent hearts do not know how to rest. They constantly fear abandonment, and this pressure slowly suffocates love. This is why Allah sometimes teaches a person loneliness before marriage, not because He wants to hurt them, but because He wants them to find emotional security in Him first. Because the strongest marriages are not built by two broken people trying to save each other from emptiness. They are built by two hearts that already know how to survive with Allah. Two people who love each other deeply, without worshiping each other emotionally. Two people who understand that love is a blessing from Allah, not a replacement for Him. And maybe this is why Allah is making you wait. Because before He gives you the right person, He wants your heart to stop depending on people for what only He can give. Peace, worth, security, and the kind of love that never leaves the soul empty. The wound you refuse to heal may be the door your marriage cannot enter through. Some people keep praying for love while secretly carrying pain they never healed from. And the dangerous thing about unhealed wounds is this: they do not stay buried forever. They quietly follow you into every future relationship. The betrayal you never recovered from, the heartbreak you pretended did not affect you, the abandonment you stayed silent about, the disrespect you normalized, the person who made you question your worth. All of it remains hidden inside the heart until someone gets close enough to touch those wounds again. This is why many people think they are ready for marriage, until love finally arrives. Because marriage does not hide emotional damage, it exposes it. The fears become louder, the insecurities become visible, the overthinking becomes constant. A person who was betrayed starts struggling to trust. A person who was abandoned becomes terrified of distance. A person who was emotionally neglected begins craving reassurance every day. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin reacting to the past more than the present. One delayed reply feels personal. One misunderstanding feels dangerous. One small change in behavior creates emotional panic. Not because the current person is hurting them, but because old wounds are still controlling the heart. And this is why healing matters so much in Islam. Because unresolved pain changes the way you love people. It can make a gentle person emotionally defensive, a calm person anxious, a loving person fearful, a trusting person suspicious, and eventually, innocent people begin paying the price for pain they never caused. This is why Allah sometimes delays marriage out of mercy, because He sees wounds inside you that you keep ignoring. He sees the sadness you hide behind fake strength, the insecurity hidden behind your confidence, the fear hidden behind your attachment, the exhaustion hidden behind your smile. And Allah knows that if certain people entered your life right now, you might unknowingly destroy something beautiful simply because your heart is still bleeding from the past. Some people think they need a spouse to heal them, but sometimes Allah wants healing to begin before the spouse arrives, because marriage is not meant to be a place where two deeply wounded people slowly destroy each other emotionally. It is meant to be a place of mercy, peace, safety, growth, and that kind of love requires emotional responsibility. Sometimes healing means finally admitting, yes, that experience changed me. Sometimes healing means stopping the cycle of pretending you are okay when your heart is exhausted. Sometimes healing means forgiving people who never apologized so your soul can finally breathe again. And sometimes healing means accepting that not everyone who hurt you was meant to stay in your life. Because holding on to pain for too long slowly changes the heart. It makes you expect disappointment, expect betrayal, expect abandonment, and eventually you stop believing peaceful love is possible. But Allah did not create your heart to live trapped inside old pain forever. He wants your heart free, soft again, at peace again. This is why Allah sometimes keeps your spouse hidden while He heals you privately. Not because He forgot your dua, but because He cares about your future marriage more than your temporary impatience. Because some delays are not rejection, they are emotional preparation. And maybe the reason love has not entered your life yet is because Allah is still teaching your heart how to receive it without fear. Allah will not place a soft love inside a heart still addicted to control. One of the biggest reasons relationships lose their peace is not lack of love. It is the need to control everything. Control the conversations, control the emotions, control how people respond, control how love should look, control how quickly things should happen. And sometimes a person becomes so focused on protecting themselves emotionally that they slowly lose the ability to love softly. Because control often comes from fear. Fear of being hurt, fear of being abandoned, fear of feeling powerless, fear of not being enough. So the heart builds emotional walls, walls of pride, walls of ego, walls of emotional defensiveness. And after a while, the person no longer knows how to be vulnerable without feeling weak. This is why some people struggle to apologize, struggle to admit mistakes, struggle to listen calmly during conflict, because deep inside, their heart is still trying to protect itself instead of nurture love. And this quietly destroys relationships, because marriage is not a battlefield where one person must always win. Marriage is mercy. It is patience during difficult moments, gentleness during misunderstandings, compassion during emotional weakness. But controlling hearts struggle with softness. They always want certainty, always want reassurance, always want things done their way. And when life does not go according to their expectations, they become frustrated, emotionally distant, or harsh. Sometimes they call this having standards, but not every form of control is wisdom. Sometimes it is simply fear pretending to be strength. And Allah sees this clearly. He sees when your heart still reacts with pride instead of humility, when your ego becomes bigger than your patience, when your need to feel emotionally safe becomes stronger than your ability to love peacefully. And this is why Allah sometimes delays marriage, because He knows that controlling hearts can unintentionally destroy gentle love. A person may pray for a righteous spouse while still carrying a heart that cannot handle disagreement without anger, correction without defensiveness, distance without panic, or emotional vulnerability without fear. But healthy love requires emotional maturity. It requires the ability to stay calm when emotions rise, to listen instead of attack, to understand instead of assume, to protect peace instead of constantly protecting ego. And this is why Allah sometimes places people in seasons of waiting, because waiting exposes the condition of the heart. It reveals impatience, emotional immaturity, the need to control outcomes. Some people become angry at Allah's timing because deep inside, they are used to controlling everything themselves. They want love immediately, answers immediately, certainty immediately. But Allah teaches something deeper through delay. He teaches surrender, the understanding that not everything will happen according to your emotional timeline. And this lesson is powerful because marriage itself requires surrender too. No marriage survives without compromise, without forgiveness, without humility. You cannot build a peaceful home while constantly needing control over every emotion and every situation. Sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is soften, to stop treating love like something that must be controlled to feel safe. And maybe this is why Allah is making some people wait, because before He sends them a peaceful spouse, He wants to remove the hardness from their heart first. He wants to teach them patience before partnership, humility before intimacy, mercy before commitment. Because real love does not grow in hearts obsessed with control. It grows in hearts that trust Allah enough to become soft again. And maybe your future marriage is not being delayed because Allah is denying you love, but because He is teaching your heart how to carry love without fear controlling it anymore. Your marriage may be delayed because you want a spouse more than you want surrender. Sometimes, the thing a person prays for the most slowly becomes the thing they depend on more than Allah, and many people do not realize when this starts happening to their heart. At first, they simply want love, companionship, a peaceful marriage, someone to build a future with. And there is nothing wrong with that. Marriage is beautiful in Islam. It is mercy, comfort, protection, a blessing from Allah. But sometimes, the desire becomes too heavy. The heart slowly begins believing, once I get married, everything inside me will finally feel okay. And this is where the danger begins, because now marriage is no longer just a blessing you hope for. It becomes the thing you believe you need in order to feel complete. Your happiness becomes attached to it. Your peace becomes attached to it. Your worth becomes attached to it. And without realizing it, your heart starts emotionally worshiping the outcome instead of trusting the one who controls the outcome. This is why some people become emotionally exhausted waiting for marriage. Every wedding they see hurts them. Every engagement announcement breaks them a little more. Every delay feels personal, because deep inside, their heart has become too attached to the dream itself. And Allah sees this attachment clearly. He sees when your heart is slowly placing emotional dependence on marriage instead of Him. And sometimes, out of mercy, He delays the very thing you want most. Not because He wants to punish you, but because He wants to protect your heart from building its entire identity around dunya. Because no human relationship can carry the weight of being your everything. Only Allah can be that. A spouse can love you deeply, but they cannot heal every insecurity inside you. They can support you, but they cannot permanently remove sadness from your life. They can comfort you during hardship, but they cannot replace the peace that comes from closeness to Allah. And this is why some people finally get married, but still feel emotionally empty afterward, because they expected marriage to give them the peace that only Allah gives. This dunya was never designed to fully satisfy the heart. No amount of attention, no relationship, no person. That complete peace only exists with Allah. And Islam teaches us something beautiful. Love people deeply, but never depend on them more than your Creator. Because the moment your heart depends too heavily on creation, fear enters. Fear of losing them, fear of rejection, fear of change, fear of abandonment. And eventually, that fear begins controlling your emotions. This is why Allah sometimes delays marriage until your heart learns surrender, until you can desire love without becoming emotionally destroyed by the weight, until you can trust Allah even when your timeline is different from everyone around you, until your heart understands that your value does not decrease because you are unmarried. Some people think the delay means they are unwanted, but sometimes Allah is simply teaching them not to build their identity around relationship status, because your worth was never created by human acceptance. It was created by Allah. And the more your heart becomes attached to Allah, the more emotionally balanced you become. You stop panicking about timing. You stop comparing your life to everyone else. You stop believing your happiness is trapped inside one future event. Instead, you begin finding peace in surrender. You still make dua. You still hope for love. You still dream of marriage. But now, your heart no longer collapses during the waiting season because you finally understand, if Allah delays something, it is never because He is careless with your heart. It is because He is protecting it. And maybe the reason your spouse has not arrived yet is because Allah wants your heart to love Him so deeply that even the blessing of marriage never becomes bigger than your trust in Him. Allah may be teaching you to recognize sakina before you mistake chaos for love again. One of the saddest things many people experience is confusing emotional chaos with love. They think love must always feel intense, complicated, unpredictable. They believe if someone consumes their thoughts every second, if the relationship constantly hurts, if their emotions are always unstable, then it must mean the connection is deep. But that is not always love. Sometimes it is simply emotional addiction, because wounded hearts often become attached to what feels familiar, and for many people, pain became familiar long before peace ever did. This is why some people chase emotionally unavailable people, why they ignore clear red flags, why they stay attached to relationships that constantly damage their mental peace. They call it love while secretly crying themselves to sleep. They call it destiny while living in constant anxiety. They call it connection while feeling emotionally drained every single day. And slowly, their heart forgets what healthy love is supposed to feel like. This is why Islam places so much importance on sakina, because real love is not supposed to feel like emotional war. Allah describes marriage as a place of tranquility, mercy, comfort, not a place where your nervous system is constantly suffering. The right person should not make you feel emotionally unsafe all the time. They should not leave you trapped in endless confusion. They should not constantly destroy your self-worth. Yes, every relationship has tests, but there is a difference between normal hardship and emotional chaos becoming your daily reality. Some people become so used to toxic attachment that peaceful love feels boring to them, because chaos creates emotional intensity, and intensity can feel addictive. The constant highs and lows, the fear of losing the person, the temporary attention after emotional distance, all of it creates unhealthy emotional attachment, and eventually, the heart starts mistaking anxiety for passion. But anxiety is not love. Constant confusion is not love. Begging for basic respect is not love. Losing your peace every day is not love. And Allah sees when your heart keeps choosing emotional pain over emotional safety. He sees the patterns you ignore, the red flags you excuse, the disrespect you keep romanticizing, and sometimes He delays your spouse because He is trying to teach your heart what peaceful love actually looks like. Because if your heart still finds comfort in emotional chaos, you may unintentionally reject the very person who brings you peace. Some people pray for healthy love, but emotionally crave unhealthy intensity. And until that changes, they keep attracting the same painful cycles over and over again. This is why Allah sometimes removes certain people from your life, not because He wants you lonely, but because He knows those connections were feeding your wounds instead of healing your soul. Some relationships only survive through anxiety, attachment, and emotional confusion. But relationships built with Allah at the center feel different. They feel calmer, cleaner, safer, not perfect, but peaceful. You do not constantly fear abandonment. You do not lose yourself trying to keep the person. You do not feel emotionally exhausted every single day. Instead, there is mutual respect, mercy during difficult moments, emotional safety, gentleness. This is the kind of love Islam teaches, a love that protects your heart, not destroys it. And maybe this is why Allah keeps delaying certain relationships in your life, because your heart still needs to learn that real love should bring you closer to peace, not further away from yourself. Maybe Allah is teaching you that attraction alone is not enough. Intensity alone is not enough. Feelings alone are not enough, because not everyone who excites your emotions is good for your soul. And sometimes the greatest sign that Allah is protecting you is the relationship that did not work out. the person who left, the connection that collapsed, the attachment that broke your heart, because maybe Allah saw the chaos that relationship would have created inside your future, while you were only focused on how strongly you felt about it. And one of the most beautiful things a believer can learn is this: the right love will never constantly pull you away from your peace, your dignity, and your relationship with Allah. Real love brings sakina, and maybe Allah is making you wait until your heart finally learns the difference between emotional addiction and genuine peace. The person you are praying for may require a version of you that does not exist yet. Many people spend years asking Allah for the right spouse, but very few ask themselves a deeper question: am I becoming the right person for the marriage I keep praying for? Because everyone dreams about receiving love, but marriage is not only about receiving, it is also about becoming more patient, more emotionally mature, more responsible, more merciful, more connected to Allah. And sometimes, the version of you that exists today is not yet ready to carry the blessing you are asking for. This is difficult for many people to accept, because we often focus on what we want, without realizing Allah is also focused on who we are becoming. A person may pray for a loving spouse while still struggling to control their anger. They may ask for emotional peace while constantly feeding drama into their own life. They may ask Allah for loyalty while still entertaining unhealthy attention from people. They may dream about a righteous marriage while neglecting their own relationship with Allah. And this is why preparation matters so much, because marriage does not magically transform someone overnight. It reveals what already exists inside them. If patience is missing now, marriage will expose it. If emotional discipline is weak now, marriage will expose it. If selfishness controls the heart now, marriage will expose it. And Allah knows this. He sees not only the spouse you desire, but also the future responsibilities that come with that marriage, the late-night conversations, the emotional tests, the misunderstandings, the sacrifices, the moments where patience will matter more than feelings. And maybe, out of mercy, Allah is using this waiting season to prepare you slowly, to strengthen parts of your character that your future marriage will desperately need one day. Because some blessings require preparation before arrival. A person can receive something beautiful too early and ruin it simply because they were not emotionally or spiritually ready to carry it. This is why Allah's delays are often full of wisdom. Sometimes He is teaching you emotional control. Sometimes He is teaching you self-respect. Sometimes He is teaching you how to be alone without feeling empty. Sometimes He is teaching you tawakkul. And many of these lessons happen in silence. No visible signs, no clear answers, no immediate reward. Just quiet seasons where Allah is shaping your heart without you even realizing it. And this process can feel painful sometimes, because growth often feels lonely, especially when you watch other people getting married while your own heart keeps waiting. You begin questioning yourself, questioning your timing, questioning whether your dua is even being heard. But what if this delay is actually part of Allah's answer? What if Allah is not ignoring your prayer, but preparing you for it? Because the person written for you may require emotional maturity that you have not fully developed yet. Maybe your future spouse will need patience during difficult moments. Maybe they will need gentleness from you. Maybe they will need someone emotionally stable. Maybe they will need someone deeply connected to Allah. And Allah wants you to become that person before the marriage begins. Because a beautiful marriage is not built only on attraction. It is built on character, on emotional safety, trust, mercy, sabr, understanding. And these qualities are not built overnight. They are built through hardship, through loneliness, through healing, through waiting. This is why some waiting seasons change a person completely. The person who once chased attention begins valuing peace. The person who once panicked over delays begins trusting Allah more deeply. The person who once depended emotionally on people begins becoming emotionally stronger with Allah. And one day, they realize they are no longer the same person they were when they first started making dua for marriage. Their heart became softer, their ego became smaller, their relationship with Allah became deeper. And maybe that transformation was the real preparation all along, because Allah is not only writing your love story, He is writing the person you must become before that story begins. And perhaps the reason your spouse has not entered your life yet is because Allah is still creating a version of you that can protect, honor, and carry the blessing of love properly, not just emotionally, but spiritually too. Allah may be protecting your love story from meeting too early, and breaking too soon. One of the hardest things for the human heart to accept is timing, because when we deeply want something, we want it now. We think, if this person is meant for me, why is Allah making me wait? But what many people do not realize is this: even the right person can become the wrong experience when the timing is not right. A beautiful love story can collapse if two hearts meet before they are emotionally, spiritually, or mentally ready. And Allah knows this better than anyone. He sees the future you cannot see. He sees who a person is becoming. He sees the lessons they still need to learn. He sees the wounds they still carry. He sees the mistakes they would make if certain relationships happen too early. But human beings only see the present moment. We see attraction, feelings, attachment, hope, fear, doubts. Allah sees the entire future. This is why sometimes He delays love, not because it is wrong, but because it is not time yet. A person who would value you deeply later may unintentionally hurt you now. A person who may one day become emotionally mature might still be emotionally lost today. A heart that will eventually protect your peace may still be learning how to control its own emotions right now. And Allah knows that if certain people met too early, they would break each other instead of build each other. This is why divine timing is one of the greatest forms of mercy, because Allah does not only care about giving you love, He cares about preserving your heart too. And sometimes the delay is actually protection from a future heartbreak you cannot see yet. But during the waiting season, most people misunderstand Allah completely. They think delay means rejection. They begin questioning their worth, questioning their future, questioning whether love will ever happen for them, especially when they watch everyone around them moving forward. Another wedding, another engagement, another couple announcing their future, and meanwhile, your own heart feels stuck in silence. This is where many people become emotionally exhausted, because they compare Allah's timing for their life with someone else's timeline. But comparison destroys trust in Allah. What arrives early for someone else may not survive. What arrives late for you may last beautifully, because not every marriage that happens quickly becomes peaceful, and not every delay is a sign of punishment. Sometimes the people who waited the longest were actually being protected the most. Allah may be protecting you from someone who looked right but would have emotionally damaged you later. He may be protecting you from entering a marriage before your heart is stable enough to carry it. Or maybe He is preparing both hearts separately before allowing them to meet. And this is something beautiful about Allah's wisdom. When He writes something truly good for you, He prepares the path carefully. Even the delays have purpose. Even the silence has meaning. Even the waiting carries hidden mercy. But the problem is, human beings often only trust Allah when life moves according to their expectations. The moment things slow down, fear enters the heart. What if it never happens? What if I am forgotten? What if everyone else finds love except me? But real tawakkul appears when there are no visible answers, when nothing makes sense, when your timeline feels empty, when your heart is tired of waiting. That is when true trust in Allah begins. To believe that what is written for you cannot miss you, and what misses you was never meant to stay. And maybe tonight, you need to remember something your heart keeps forgetting. Allah is not late. He is Al-Hakim, the most wise. He knows exactly when your heart will be ready, exactly when another person will be ready, exactly when the meeting will become a blessing instead of a test. And perhaps if Allah gave you that relationship earlier, you would have ruined it, or it would have ruined you. Perhaps the version of you from 2 years ago would not have known how to protect that love. Perhaps the version of them from 2 years ago would not have known how to value your heart. But Allah knew, and this is why He made you wait. Not because He wanted you lonely, but because He wanted the story to arrive in the right season. Because some love stories are so precious, Allah protects them from happening too early. And one day, when you finally understand why certain delays happened, you may look back at this painful waiting season and realize Allah was not withholding love from you. He was protecting your future from breaking before it even began. The real blockage may not be the missing person. It may be the missing return to Allah. Sometimes, the greatest thing blocking peace in your life is not the absence of a spouse. It is the distance between your heart and Allah. Because when the heart slowly drifts away from Allah, everything else becomes emotionally unstable. Your thoughts become heavier. Your fears become louder. Your loneliness becomes deeper. And suddenly, you begin expecting people to give you the peace that only Allah can give. This is why some people become emotionally obsessed with relationships, not because they truly found the one, but because their soul is starving spiritually. And when the soul is empty, it starts searching for fulfillment everywhere else, in attention, in romance, in validation, in emotional attachment. But no human being can permanently calm a heart disconnected from its creator. That peace only comes from Allah. This is why a person can be surrounded by love and still feel empty inside, because spiritual emptiness cannot be healed by human closeness alone. And maybe this is what many people do not understand about Allah's delays. Sometimes He delays marriage because He misses the version of you that used to run back to Him first, the version of you that cried during dua, that found peace in sujood, that spoke to Allah before speaking to people. But slowly, the heart changed. Dunya became louder. People became more important. Attention became addictive. And the connection with Allah became weaker. Not completely gone, but weaker. The salah became rushed. The dua became inconsistent. The heart stopped depending on Allah deeply. And eventually, the soul became exhausted without even understanding why, because the heart was never designed to survive far away from Allah. This is why Allah sometimes allows loneliness, not to destroy you, but to bring you back to tahajjud, back to sincerity, back to dependence on Him, back to the kind of peace that no human being can take away. Some of the most powerful transformations happen during lonely seasons, when nobody is there, when the nights feel heavy, when your heart is tired of disappointment, because sometimes loneliness removes distractions. It forces you to sit with yourself, to face your wounds, to face your fears, to finally realize how much of your emotional stability was attached to people instead of Allah. And this realization changes everything, because once the heart truly reconnects with Allah, something inside a person becomes calmer. They stop begging people for love, stop chasing validation constantly, stop panicking over timing, not because they no longer desire marriage, but because their heart finally found a deeper source of peace. And this is one of the most beautiful things about returning to Allah sincerely. It changes the way you carry your pain. The same person who once cried every night from fear of being alone begins feeling emotionally stronger with Allah. The same person who once panicked about the future begins trusting Allah's timing more deeply. The same person who once depended emotionally on people begins depending on Allah first. And maybe this is the transformation Allah wanted all along, because sometimes the delay was never about punishment. It was about purification. Allah was removing unhealthy attachment from your heart, removing desperation, removing emotional dependence on creation, so that when love finally arrives, you do not lose yourself inside it. Some people enter relationships while spiritually empty and then expect the other person to carry all their emotional pain. But healthy love cannot survive when one person expects another human being to replace Allah emotionally. This is why the strongest marriages are built between two people who already know how to return to Allah during hardship, two people who understand that peace comes from Allah first, not from each other, two people who love deeply but still keep Allah at the center of the relationship. And maybe tonight, Allah is not asking you to chase love harder. Maybe He is asking you to return to Him more sincerely, to rebuild your salah, to speak to Him honestly again, to trust Him again, to stop believing you are forgotten just because your timeline looks different. Because Allah never delays something good without wisdom. Never. And perhaps the reason your spouse is still hidden is because Allah is preparing your heart to receive love without turning that love into an idol. Perhaps He wants your connection with Him to become so strong that even when marriage finally enters your life, your soul never depends on people more than it depends on Allah. And maybe one day you will look back at this lonely season and realize something beautiful. The delay that once broke your heart was actually the thing that brought you closest to Allah. And maybe, after hearing all of this tonight, you finally understand something your heart was struggling to accept for so long. Allah is not ignoring your loneliness. He is watching every silent tear, every late night dua, every moment your heart feels tired of waiting. He knows how badly you want love. He knows the emptiness you sometimes feel when you watch everyone else moving forward while your own life feels still. But never believe that delay means abandonment, because sometimes Allah hides something precious, not to keep it from you, but to protect it until the right moment arrives. Maybe your future spouse exists already. Maybe your love story is already written. Maybe Allah is preparing both hearts separately right now. in ways neither of you can see. And perhaps one day, everything that confused you will suddenly make sense. The heartbreaks, the failed connections, the lonely nights, the people who walked away, the delays that once made you question your worth. You will realize Allah was saving your heart from relationships that would have destroyed your peace. You will realize He was healing wounds you did not know were still bleeding. You will realize He was teaching your heart how to love without losing itself. And maybe the greatest lesson was never just about finding the right person, but about becoming closer to Allah during the waiting. Because sometimes the real miracle is not that Allah finally gives you the person you prayed for. Sometimes the real miracle is that the waiting itself brings you back to Him. So do not lose hope. Do not believe your story is over simply because it has not happened yet. Allah can change your entire life in a single moment. One dua, one meeting, one unexpected decree, and what Allah has written for you will never miss you. Never. So keep making dua, keep healing, keep becoming softer with Allah, keep protecting your peace, keep trusting His timing even when your heart feels tired. Because if Allah is making you wait, then perhaps what He is preparing is far more beautiful than what you would have rushed into yourself. And maybe one day, the very delay that once made you cry will become the reason you thank Allah the most.